Hi, Jason Scott here. Today we're going to be doing a tutorial / mini demo on how to set up a merge between a bone-based and a Blendshape based facial system. I'm not going to be doing a full tutorial unless a bunch of people PM and ask, how do you set it up from beginning to end? In which case, if I can get more awareness of my stuff and people are really interested, I might do that. But right now I'm just kind of setting this up, showing people what you can do, and also asking anyone who's more knowledgeable on the subject, is this how you do it? Is this how you've seen it done? Or is there a more efficient way to do it than what I'm doing? Now, I would use a rivet script as opposed to actually using hair follicles. But we're going to be using hair follicles so I can show people how to do this out of the box. The system I'm showing here can be done with pure out-of-the-box Maya stuff. Does not need any scripts or mel or utility nodes or any of that stuff. So that's why I'm showing it in this method or in this manner. What we have to start working with here is we have a base mesh here with a really simple control rig. Alright? So right now we have main head, and if I go to the net control, you see it follows, head moves. Very, very basic, simple head setup. Eye controls. Simple. Okay? We have a mock GUI here, which we're going to eventually set up. I did all this extra, this beginning setup stuff to kind of try to save time, and we'll jump right into it. So the first thing you're going to run into when you first do this is most likely, if you look at your UV texture editor, you're probably going to be dealing with something like this, unless you're doing a really high quality model. Generally, people will mirror their faces because it's easiest to use that nice mirrored utility where you're going to save a lot of texture space and you could texture in different things here. But the problem with this is if I tried to put a hair system here, like if I went to this neck, well, not the neck, that's a bad example. Let's go to this cheek. If I went to this cheek here and said, okay, we're going to do some laugh line morph targets, and I want the bone to follow that. Now if I go to dynamics, watch, it's going to appear on this side, by the way. That's what you're looking for. Hair, go to create hair, paint effects, at selected points faces, create hairs. Notice that it appeared on this side. That's not what we want. We wanted it on this side. So in order to solve this problem, now in this particular case it's not going to be a big deal because we're going to be working on this side the whole time. But to solve that problem, what we do is we turn Mayhead off and we go to Bonehead. Notice that this UV set here is completely different. Alright, this is an opened up, nice, cleaned UV set. So if I were to do that same thing here, and I went to this cheek and I said hair, create hair, notice that it appears right there, which is exactly what we want. Okay, so let's go to 5 and let's take a look at what we're dealing with here. If I go to my Blendshape, you will notice that we have smirk and brow up. I have some Blendshape morph targets set up, and they're going into this one right here. Nothing is going to be happening to our main head yet. Notice that brow up affects that one, and smirk affects that one. So this is called our blender head. So there are 3 main heads to this setup. There is our primary head, which is actually connected to our geometry, and our this is what's going to be shown when we render and everything else. This is our bind head. Then we have the bone follow head, which is not connected to the geometry yet. Alright? And that doesn't have anything on it just yet. Okay? It has enough history so that it will blend shape with the other one. And what we're going to do is we're going to plug our blender head, which all of our blend shapes, like if I were to go forth and make my 10,000 blend shapes, they would all go into this one, blender head, which would plug directly into our bone follow head, which would then plug into our main head. So let's take our blender head, let's go to our follow head, let's go to animation, create deformers, blend shape options. That's good. See how it says default? That's important. Create. Now, let's go here. Let's find the blend shape node and turn that to 1. That's going to stay on 1 the whole time. Okay. Now, if we look at our blend shape editor, Windows, Animation Editors, Blend Shape, you will notice that there is another blend shape here. That's going to, as I said, stay on 1. But now look what happens when we hit smirk. That information is transferred to our bone follow head. So now what we need to do is find a way to get our morph target system to address this bone control system that we're going to create. And the way we're going to do that is through using follicles. So let's go to our rig group and hide that so that we have a little bit cleaner environment to work with. Let's frame that up. Alright, and now let's just start picking some points out that we want to address. So we'll pick that one, and we'll go to Dynamics, Hair, Create Hair Option Box. I'm using Paint Effects, at selected points faces, points per hair 10. Create hairs, hair, hair, delete, here, and Shift P, and we'll call this the brow 1 follicle. Of course, that would be left brow 1. We'll do that afterwards. Okay, we'll do that once to all of them. Okay, and delete. Okay, let's take another face, hair, create hair. Let's Shift P that. Take this whole thing here, delete, brow 2 follicle. Let's go over here, hair, create hair, delete our hair system, unparent that, let's go to brow 3 follicle. And I think that's good enough for now for what we're doing. And let's go here, hair, create hair. Let's delete the hair system. Shift P, left, corner, mouth. Oh, not spelled right this. No. Let's be exact. Might as well. Okay, there you go, follicle. And let's do one more. Let's do, let's put that one right there. Hair, create hair, delete, Shift P, and let's delete this whole follicle group here. We'll call this the mouth follicle. Okay. So now we have a bunch of follicles. Let's make sure that they're following. See those little red things there? Alright, now we want to make sure that they are following and everything is working correctly. And if so, then you will understand how this works. And it is. Okay? Yes, it is. Perfect. Okay. So, now, I have face control group, face tweak, and here's the face control group 1. That is down here. Okay? Let's go ahead and make this a little bit smaller. And drag it even closer so that it makes a little bit more sense. And we'll go from there. Okay. Now, we have control group 1. Let's duplicate that a few times. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's take this control group, and I could either go there, animation, constrain, parent, maintain offset as off. Now, before I do this, I want to point out that I am not using the actual control. The way that this hierarchy is built, we have a joint. We have a control curve that is oriented to that joint, and then we have that object grouped, and each one of those are based of that. So notice we have a joint, a control curve, and then we have a group. We are working only with the group, okay? So the follicle is going to be going into control group 1. Now, constrain parent. You will notice that that jumps into position, it orients itself properly, and we're good to go. Now, we go to brow 2 follicle, we go to group 2, we hit G. Brow 3 follicle, 3, G. Here, G. And here, G. Okay. Now, once again, notice that it follows. Alright? But, right now, we do not have any control objects. There's no influence here. It's not doing anything. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go to turn bone face off. We'll go to our main head, and we're going to add these as influence objects. Actually, let's go ahead and show nerve curves. Turn that off. Okay. Skin, edit smooth skin. We're going to go to add influences, make sure lock weights is on, add. Okay? Now let's go to our skin, edit smooth skin, and let's go to our paint skin weights tool. Let's take a look at what we have to work with here. And this is just the basics of how you would set up a bone-based facial system anyway. So if you know how to set the bone-based system up, then this isn't anything different. Okay. So now, if we show none, show polygons, show our NURBS curves, you will now notice that it affects the geometry, which is good. Okay, we have a bone-based facial system. But again, if we activate this now, you will notice that it kind of follows, but not exactly. So what do we want to do? Here comes the magic. This is the magic point. All right? We're going to go to our bone-based, bone follow head. Then we're going to go to main head, and we're going to create deformers, Blendshape. But we're going to go over to default, and we're going to set it to parallel. Create. Okay? Now we're going to go to parallel blender. We're going to go to Blendshape, bone follow head. We're going to set that to 1. Now look what happens when we activate smirk. Notice that the control follows. Now look what happens when we brow up. The controls follow. However, what ends up happening when we do this is that if we go all the way up, notice that it overdoes it. The reason for this is, as I was saying before, you get double transformations when you start setting this system up. The reason for that is because we are telling that we want the bone to influence these certain points. The bone is affected by the, in order to follow via position, it's affected by the bone-based face system, the bone follow face, and that translation is driving it up. But when we're also telling it, now I want you to be affected by the morph target, which is also driving the points up. So we're creating a dual double transform effect. But if we only go to 0.5, notice that we're getting about what we want. So all we have to do then is go to here, go to animation, animate, set driven key, set. We will load our driver, which will be translate X, and our driven will be blender heads Blendshape, which is smirk and brow up. Load driven, smirk, brow up. This one is brow up, so we'll go to brow up and we'll hit key. We'll go to brow all the way over to our final point, which has limitations set on it. We'll go back to Blendshapes, brow up, and we'll just set this to, we'll start with 0.5. And we can actually, if you're one of those people who set morph targets, let's maybe try that. Let's try 0.56, okay? If you're one of those people who do your morph targets kind of conservatively, this will help because it's going to add a bunch of extra deformation that may end up helping you with exaggeration. We'll key that. And now, our GUI is only going to drive it to the correct point. Also notice that our control object has full influence. And we can affect that by painting weights. Skin, smooth skin. Let's see. Paint skin weights tool. Let's say we want to bring that down a little bit. Okay, let's bring the opacity down some. Okay, we can affect the performance a little bit by still painting weights, and our bone-based system will follow with our GUI. And you do the same thing for the smirk. Okay? And that is really how you do it. That is the system that I have come up with so far that permits your control system to merge your bone-based as well as your morph targets. And so, you know, we make it smirk and then we just drag it over and it works. So, again, I'm not sure how it's done in production when you see on all those rigging reels, but this is how I accomplish the technique. So, if there are any questions, if there is anything anyone has to say about, you know, doing this in a better way, please let me know for sure. I definitely want to be aware of a different, more efficient way to accomplish this technique, but it is a pretty nice technique that lets you get quite a bit of interesting things happening. So, that is pretty much the demo. So, thank you very much.